Hello, welcome to the June 2023 Real Estate Market Update, where we talk about what's happening locally in the Phoenix metro area as well as nationally. And we're going to kick things off with our local numbers. Starting off with our active listing counts, this is month over the last year. We are currently at 10,663 active listings. That's almost right in line with where we were June of last year. You can see where active listings peaked last year, October, November, and December, and then they've slowly been trending downward as buyer demand has gone down. And keep in mind that average listings in the Phoenix metro area usually sits between 14 and 18,000, so we are still historically low as far as inventory. Here's a different look at active listings. This is weekly counts. The green line is 2019, the red line is 2022, and the pink line is 2023, or today. You can see that we've been sitting under 2019, pretty far under 2019 this entire year. So again, historically low compared to more normal years. And then you can see that pink and red line really close together. As I said, we are pretty much on par with where we were this time last year. So why is our inventory staying low and when is it expected to come up? Short answer is interest rates. For starters, majority of homeowners have a lot of equity in their home and are pretty happy with their affordable monthly payment and low interest rate. So most of them have no interest in selling right now. And with rents increasing and property values increasing, investors have no interest in dumping their rental properties either. So it's likely we're not going to see an uptick in inventory until interest rates start easing. On top of that, new build permits are down a whopping 49% from this time last year, and foreclosure rates still remain very low, so we're not expecting an influx of inventory from either of those departments. Moving on to average price per square foot, this graph is a really great visual for appreciation, essentially. It dates all the way back to June of 2010 and shows our appreciation rate or increase in price per square foot through today. So starting off in June of 2010, you can see prices were very low. Those were the years following the crash, $81 a square foot, and then slowly starting to recover from there. And we've been consistently appreciating for the most part with a few dips here and there. And then we reach 2020 and the craziness begins. Interest rates drop to a historical low and prices skyrocket. And we now know that prices peaked in May of 2022, and then when interest rates significantly jumped up to 7% out of nowhere, buyer demand significantly decreased, which of course caused prices to adjust. However, that adjustment actually stopped in December of 2022, and we are on the rise again. And here's a quick look at price changes. This graph shows price reductions. You can see in October, there was roughly 3,800 price reductions per week, and we are now under 1,000. The average price reduction amount is at 10,000, which is down from 14,000, and that's pretty on par with a normal year. And the last thing I'll talk about is average days on market. Historically, in Arizona, average days on market is anywhere from 60 to 75 days. June of 2019, we were at 62. June of last year, when things were crazy, we were at 29, and we're back to an average point at 65. And that'll wrap up our Phoenix metro area data for June of 2023. Now let's take a look at what's happening nationally.
So if you're curious about where mortgage rates are headed, let's first delve into why they've reached such high levels. Well, for the past 5 decades, there's been a key metric known as the 10-year Treasury yield, along with a complementary factor called the spread. Now, this spread represents the additional percentage added to the 10-year Treasury yield by the banking industry to determine the mortgage rates. It's essentially the portion that the banks retain for themselves. Historically, this spread has averaged about 1.72%. Adding 1.72% would yield the corresponding mortgage rate at that time. However, the situation has changed recently. The average spread of 1.72% has been significantly surpassed. As of the start of 2023, we observed that the spread exceeded the average by 1 percentage point, resulting in mortgage rates being 1 point higher than they would typically be with a 1.72% spread. As of June 2nd, that spread has grown to 3 percentage points, nearly double the normal rate. This occurrence is highly unusual, and according to George Ratui, the chief economist at Keeping Current Matters, spreads approaching or exceeding 300 basis points, which is equivalent to 3% in our terminology, have only been witnessed during periods of high inflation or economic volatility, such as the early 80s or the Great Financial Crisis of 2008 and 2009. Now, this graph clearly illustrates George's point, demonstrating that such high spreads rarely occur. Presently, we find ourselves in one of those exceptional periods which explains elevated mortgage rates. Odetta Cushy, the deputy chief economist of First American, affirms it's reasonable to assume that the spread, consequently mortgage rates, will decrease in the second half of the year if the Federal Reserve eases its monetary tightening measures and provides investors with more certainty. However, it's unlikely that the spread will return to its historic average of 170 basis points. As of the beginning of June, the 10-year Treasury yield stood at 3.65%. Now, with normal spreads, we would have expected a mortgage rate of 5.37%. Just envision the impact on the market if rates were at 5.37%. However, the spread is far from normal, and currently it sits at 3.2%, resulting in rates approaching and even surpassing 7%. Even if we consider Odetta Cushy's suggestion that the spread won't revert to 1.72%, let's assume it's half a point higher than the 50-year historical average, let's say 2.25%, then mortgage rates would still remain below 6%. Just imagine the market dynamics if rates were under 6%. So where are we with home price values? So Case-Shiller's month-over-month price change data shows March numbers because April and May numbers aren't available yet. The numbers show that the beginning of last year, things were taking off and flying high. Then in July, interest rates went up and things came crashing down. The worst month was August, and it appears to be balancing back out now. The last 2 months show positive, not negative. So month over month percent change at home values seasonally adjusted is showing that we might be past the worst of it. Now keep in mind, back in 2008, it took almost 6 years for prices to come back to positive. Here, we're talking about 6 months. So Case-Shiller says prices are stabilizing. What does FHFA say? Well, they say prices are stabilizing as well. They look at a slightly different set of data, so the numbers are slightly different, but the overall trend is the same. A rough second half of last year and now coming back. And at CoreLogic, the data there shows the same thing. Now here's a look at all three of them together. They're all saying the same thing. The three most reputable home price indexes are all saying a great first half of 2022, a rough second half, and now on our way back. We'll keep a close eye on April and May numbers nationally when they become available. So why do headlines paint such a very different picture? Well, one factor is the use of median home price, which is meaningless for measuring value and appreciation. It's easy and it's quick to obtain, which is why so many use that number. But when used to draw conclusions about home values, it's flawed and it yields flawed results. The median price is just a middle price, meaning if more lower priced homes have sold recently, then the median sales price would decline because the middle home is now the lower priced home. Even if the value of each individual home is rising, it means that the makeup of the homes sold has changed. Here's another way of looking at median price. Let's assume you have 3 coins in your pocket, 1 nickel and 2 dimes. The median value of the coins is 10 cents because there's 1 coin below and 1 coin above. If you have 2 nickels and 1 dime, the median value of the coins in your pocket is now 5 cents because there's a nickel in the middle. In both cases, a nickel is still worth 5 cents and a dime is still worth 10 cents. It has nothing to do with the value of each coin. It only changes the median value of the group of coins that happens to be in your pocket at that given moment. And now on to one final look at national numbers. Because numbers are always compared to a start point, it's valuable to address the difference in normal, abnormal, and extremely abnormal. And we're going to refer to those years so profoundly impacted by the pandemic as the unicorn years, because everything about that time was intensely different. The unicorn years were the 2 greatest years in American real estate history, an anomaly, and thus the name unicorn years. And comments that we've all heard, well, things are down or they're not as good this year. Well, the question needs to be asked, compared to what? Compared to normal years or compared to unicorn years? The conclusions drawn will be vastly different depending on what they're compared to. Let's take a look. In 2022, appreciation dropped to 5% from the 18% in 2021 and 11% in 2020. However, it was up from the 4% in 2019, which was a non-unicorn year. And it was even with the 5% in 2018, also a non-unicorn year. Pending listings, well, they show the same thing. 460,276 pending listings. That's down from the 655,553 and the 562,254 of 2021 and 2022, the unicorn years. But it's even and even up from the normal years of 2017 to 2020. Here's a look at median days on market, up from the unicorn years, but still down from 17, 18, 19, and 20. Houses are still selling faster now than in any of the normal non-unicorn years. A look at buyer traffic, down from 2021 and 2022, yet way up from the normal years 2017, 18, 19, and 20. And that also shows up in the month's supply of inventory as well. 2.9 months compared to 4 months or more for any of the non-unicorn years. And how about inventory? Yes, inventory, thankfully, is up from the unicorn years. We really needed that. Now, that does not mean it's a quote-unquote bad market. It's still half the number of available homes for sale from 2017 to 2020.
Well, that's going to wrap up our June 2023 real estate market update. As always, if you have any questions or want any specific data in your area, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help. Thanks again, and we'll see you next month.